LGBT couples should be allowed to marry, 30% supporting civil unions. Joining me now to help set the record straight on this, Richard Socarides, former White House advisor to President Clinton and former president of Equality Matters, and from D.C. MSNBC contributor and the Washington Post opinion writer, Jonathan Capehart. So, gentlemen, it's great to have you here. And, Richard, you're here in person, so I want to start with you as we talk about these two cases in question. We've got DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, as well as Proposition 8 to consider. If we first talk about DOMA, if it is struck down, what does that mean nationally?
Well, it means only that if you live in a state that permits same-sex marriage and you are in a same-sex marriage, that the federal government will recognize your marriage. DOMA does not require states to do anything. It doesn't require anybody to do anything. But right now it prevents the federal government from granting recognition to same-sex marriages, like, for instance, in New York. If that is struck down, the people who are married in states that allow it will get full federal recognition.
Which is over more than 1,000 federal benefits.
Yeah, it's very important. It'd be very significant.
Jonathan, if we talk about Prop 8 in California, if that is struck down, does that mean marriage equality then, for all intents and purposes, is legal in all states? Does what happens in California then change the relevance for 49 other states?
Well, this all gets to how the Supreme Court rules. You know, in I think it was the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals when they upheld the decision written by Judge Vaughn Walker. Judge Vaughn Walker didn't go for the big, expansive constitutional right to marry that Ted Olson and David Boies was hoping he would go for. He had a very narrow ruling. Will the Supreme Court then stick to that narrow ruling? And if they do, then same-sex marriage, assuming Prop 8 is knocked down, then same-sex marriage could just be limited to California. And what we could end up happening is a situation where you have something like 20% of the country where same-sex marriage is legal, and if Richard is right and DOMA is struck down as unconstitutional, where you could have legally married same-sex couples in, say, California or New York, who are then able to avail themselves of the 1,100-something federal rights that come with marriage, and yet gay couples, you know, who've been together for decades in states where marriage equality is not legal, you're setting up a two-class system there and a two-step situation where step one happens and step two is almost inevitable.
So as we think about this, and for everybody out there that's watching and think about this, it's basically two different lanes that we need to watch here with DOMA and with Prop 8. And Richard, in your coverage for the New Yorker, you've written about the dynamic among the justices on the court. So as we look at that makeup, how do you think that this will go? Especially considering that Justice John Roberts is a young man who is going to be probably sitting as Chief Justice for 30 more years or so, and his desire to be on the right side of history.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and I think that is a very important point, perhaps the most important point in this whole discussion we're having right now, and that is that on Friday, when they announced that they were taking both the DOMA case and this potentially bigger Proposition 8 case, I think they were sending a signal that they are ready to say something very significant and very forward-leaning on same-sex marriage. I think that if they wanted to do something small, they would have probably not taken the California case, but having decided to take that case, I think John Roberts is looking at his legacy. He's always, you know, we saw in the healthcare decision that he has an eye on the legacy of the court, and I think the only question now is how far will they go? I mean, I think it's going to be progress. I think it's going to be at least in keeping with where the polls are showing the country is going. It may be, you know, it may be a huge, significant, historic decision, but at a minimum, it's going to be a very important gay rights decision.
And Jonathan, if we look at this in the terms of long-range politics, how might the High Court's ruling in either case affect the president and Democrats, as well as Republicans, as they look to shape up their image of rebranding moving into the future?
Well, look, on this issue, Democrats they're in the right lane. They're on the right side of history. President Obama, excuse me, expressed his personal support for marriage equality. I think you now have two possible candidates for president, Governor O'Malley in Maryland, Governor Cuomo in New York, who are rumored to be running for president. They actively pushed for marriage equality in their state. So on the Democratic side, things are fine. It's on the Republican Party side where there is an issue, and there is a split in that party where sort of the establishment isn't quite there yet on marriage equality. But when you talk to younger Republicans, I think of Ken Mehlman, who Richard and I both know, our friend McCain. I can't remember.
Meghan McCain.
Meghan McCain.
Yes,
I'm so
that's
sorry.
right.
But
Meghan.
Meghan McCain, who's out there pushing, pro-marriage equality positions. As soon as the Republican Party meets up with the Mehlmans and McCains in their ranks, then they will join the Democratic Party in terms of being on the right side of history.
This point that Jonathan raises is very important because, because of the way this case arises, the Republicans have their name on this brief. And when the case is argued, the lawyer is going to be the lawyer retained by the House Republicans. And in order to argue this case against same-sex marriage, you have to say a lot of things that sound like you're living in the 1950s. And I think that's what the election was about, and that's right where Republicans don't want to be.
And Jonathan, as you bring up Meghan McCain and also Ken Mehlman, I have an idea. Grover Norquist, that anti-tax pledge guru, his relevance is probably going to go away if taxes go up. So he might want to start a marriage equality pledge for Republicans to sign. Just saying.
That's a very good idea, Thomas.
Don't
Maybe
you
I
think
should
so?
write
He's on
something
Go
about
Proud.
that.
He's part of Go Proud, the board of Go Proud. So, gentlemen, thanks so much. Just an idea. If it happens, I don't even want 10%. I won't even take an agency fee on that. We do have two very special guests coming up on the show tomorrow that I want to tell you about. The latest issue of Jet Magazine, the December 10th issue, getting a lot of buzz.